So this is why I haven't planted yet. It's snowing! Huples cat. I've been renovating my basement because I don't think we're going to be moving this year, because I don't think we're going to be able to sell this place. Though you never know, there are homes still selling at reasonable prices. But I think by the time the Shire is built, we won't be able to. But I've actually found a lot of treasures, so I'll just give you a quick run through of where I'm at. I'm hoping to get most of this finished today. So I've found some more food, so I boxed it up, ready to deliver to the neighbours, ready to use ourselves if we need to. A bunch of cooking stuff, various bits and pieces, a whole bunch of improvised N95 gear, and a big box of medications. This is one of the food boxes I've yet to look at. And you can see the types of stuff that I put in here. Kind of fascinating stuff I collect over the years, eh? Fresh fruit might be in short supply, Asian pears, seaweed, all sorts of weird stuff. One of the things I want more of is this. People at work are already starting to use ear protection because they're using surgical masks and it pulls on the ears. I don't really think that's a great idea. It's pretty easy to put straps on, but even with straps, when you have them tight, and trust me, when you're looking after COVID, you have them on real tight. Looking at second skin, moleskin, I did ask the hospital to suggest that maybe they look at buying moleskin for the staff, but I don't think they bothered, which could be a huge mistake. Certainly if skin breaks down, you might well see staff calling sick or actually being sick because of that, especially if they're in a COVID-19 area. You know, prevention is always better than cure. Garbage, of course, can't be helped. This should excite everybody. A whole big box of camping, kayaking stuff, and so far 2 full boxes full of prepping supplies. Kind of fun, looking at what I found. Now, I did do this area before, and the stuff here I need to throw out, stuff I need to keep. So I have all of that stuff there. We have quite a lot of food for the dogs and the cats. What I did years ago is I actually got a big supply of dry food for the dogs, so I'm kind of pleased that I have this, and that's going to be used up. There's Kitty's Instapot. Unused. I will have to have words with her about that. I think everybody should have one of these. It's a plastic bucket with a toilet seat on it. You never know at all. This is good for a quarantine room if they don't have access to a toilet. Our quarantine room, which I haven't set up yet, actually does have access to a toilet. I think if you can do that, that's great. It has to be just for the person who's being isolated though. It can't be shared, even if you're cleaning it down. Fecal matter really is dangerous if somebody's got COVID-19. You really want that toilet isolated for the person who's infected. This is one of 2 manual washing machines. I have 2 because I have one specifically for fecal matter, for cloth rags. So if you're out of toilet paper, you can cut up linen and jeans into little squares and you have toilet paper. It's actually very, very soft and works well. But I would advise that you were able to clean it separately from other stuff and consider that the wastewater would be very contaminated. We have a big garden. I would be able to put it into the back part of the garden where the dogs can't get access to, and it has gravel and soil bed to get rid of it. So one of the things that's incredibly in short supply is yeast. So I actually have quite a bit of yeast. I found that. I actually have other yeast floating around, but that's just from what I found going through cardboard boxes that need to be sorted out. Turns out being a crazy prepper was actually kind of a good idea for this. I do think though, a year or so after this pandemic's over, and who knows when it'll be over, that most people will go back to normalcy and prepping again will be very marginalised. I do think most preppers have a lot of stuff. If you don't have a lot of stuff, you just play with guns and camouflage gear and pretending you're a soldier. I mean, which is fine, right? People have to have hobbies. But I think it's really, really a good idea to actually use the supplies that we have and the knowledge we have locally to help people out. I really do, and I don't think there's much harm in that. If you live in high crime areas, there's a lot of harm in that. Food is not going to disappear from the stores. Some food's going to disappear. Getting access to the stores is going to get more and more restricted, I think. It's going to be interesting. Britain's calling for another shutdown for 3 more weeks. Here, we're not saying, but we've cancelled school in until September, and it looks like it's going to be months here, maybe another month or 2. The United States apparently are thinking of reopening in a week or 2 or 3 weeks, I think. That's going to be interesting because the United States is a big country, smaller than Canada, but it has large numbers of urban cities spread around, and some urban cities have been very, very severely affected and others really haven't had the surge yet. So the hope is that the voluntary self-exclusion from other people that Canadians and Americans have done, and to some extent the British are now doing quite severely, is that there won't be that huge spike in ICU cases that Italy and Spain and New York City have seen. We don't know that there won't be anyway, but we're hoping there won't be. So when we open up quarantine, when we let people start to circulate again in phased ways, it's going to be interesting to see if COVID-19 comes back. There's no reason why it wouldn't. There is hope that it won't. If you're in a lockdown area and you're watching this and the lockdown's being progressively removed, really seriously consider not obeying the removal. Keep yourself locked down for 3 to 6 weeks after everybody else is circulating freely again. Pandemics, influenza outbreaks can have waves. I haven't really talked about it much. I really don't want to. I've done a lot of reading on Spanish influenza way before this pandemic, and I am very concerned about waves. I know people are starting to say there will be a second wave. They have no idea. Pandemic influenzas can have single wave phenomena, which is this is the peak. Once we get through the peak, there will be no other peaks, just micro peaks as we drop down in caseload as more and more people are immune. There's no guarantee we won't have a second wave. There's no guarantee we will. So again, be wary of what you're listening to, be wary of what you're hearing, especially when it actually really emphasizes with you and it fits your biases. For example, 5G, there's no evidence whatsoever that this is a 5G disease, and yet people are really getting into their heads that 5G caused this in some mysterious way that they don't quite understand, because there's absolutely no way 5G can alter RNA or DNA and of viruses. And also the bioweaponry theories and all that rest of it, and the world order trying to get rid of cash and steal people's guns. I've seen a few, they're coming for our gun videos. Legitimate. I mean, let's face it, if you're a psychopath, I don't want you to have a gun, and if I'm a government and I feel threatened, and I feel my power base is being threatened by local actions that no longer apply under the normal format of government control and taxation, yeah, I might take your guns. I think it's highly unlikely that that will happen, except in very localized areas for specific reasons. I can foresee a time where certain parts of downtowns are actually, you have to go through a metal detector to go into them so they can remove your gun in response to violence generated as a side effect of COVID-19. But you know, I think that's a whole big thing. I think if you rely on a gun for your freedom, you've missed the whole point, and that's probably why you don't really have a democracy in certain parts of the world anymore, because you don't actually believe that you as an individual have any say and freedom other than owning a gun. So you can murder somebody. But, you know, look at the politicians who are being elected all across America and Canada and Britain. You know, we the people have failed in our duty to make sure that we have a free press, and we've failed in our duty to make sure the elected officials are actually there to represent us the people, not special interests. And that's kind of sad. So yeah, Bernie dropped. I'm not surprised he dropped. He won the primaries that he lost. There was at least an 8% transfer of votes to Biden from him, if you base that on exit polls. They did their best to try and stop exit polls because they were cheating to make sure he didn't win. And crazy Bernie, who wanted to bring free healthcare and a more socialist America to allow the trickle up, to allow entrepreneurship to actually be able to be done by all Americans, not just the ones who've got very rich parents. Yeah, that dream has died for you guys down there, and up here I think the dream has died as well. I don't think the world that's going to emerge is going to be very much like the world that we had, and I'll probably do a video on that sometime. So Kitty's coming home after 2 nights in charge of the ICU, and she's probably feeling kind of crabby because she has been the last few days. People are pretty freaked out. So I'm going to open up the garage door for her and get ready for her to come home, and then she can go to bed with Becky so Becky won't howl all day, and I will get ready to go to work myself for the next 3 nights. And this is Friday, actually no, this is Thursday, and from a snowy Toronto, have a great day, have a great weekend. Hope you like Thursday fun. Let me know what you're doing. If you've got any questions, let me know. At this point I think we're all expert virologists, but I'm not sure if we're expert community nurses yet, and we really need to be as fast as we can. Remember, in SHTF, tomorrow will always be worse than today unless you prep, and in a pandemic, tomorrow will always be worse than today, even if you prep, until we get past the peak. Toodles. This was a very snow-covered Bull Terrier production, 2020.